welcome to the Jayda InStitches show. It's Christmas in July, and all this week we've been sharing project ideas with you to help you bulk up your Christmas make-ahead stash. For this week's tutorial, Mr. InStitches and I designed a hexagon motif with a pretty little poinsettia pattern in the very center of it. And today we're going to show you how to make it out of cotton and turn it into a dishcloth, because we've had a lot of requests to make more kitchen Christmas cotton projects. But at the end of the video, we're going to share a few more project ideas with you that you can use this motif in, besides just turning it into a dishcloth. It's a pretty good size. It's 8.5 inches from point to point, or almost 7.5 inches across, and that's before blocking. And we have a written pattern available in our Etsy shop for today's video. It not only includes the entire motif pattern and how to turn it into a dishcloth, but some ideas and tips and tricks for the other projects we're going to mention at the end of the video besides. So let's grab our hooks, grab our yarn, we'll head on over to the craft table, and we will stitch up a pretty little poinsettia dishcloth together. In order to make our poinsettia dishcloths, we're using a 100% cotton yarn. This is a size 4 medium weight. You want around 60 to 70 yards in red and 20 to 30 yards in a different color. So white, green, even variegated like I've got here. You want a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, and the hook I'm using is a 5.5 millimeter. It's also known as an I or a 9 in the US, a 5 in the UK. And once you've got all that together, we can get started. We're going to start with our red yarn and a slip knot on our hook. We're going to chain 5 to begin. And once you have a chain of 5, you're going to join with a slip stitch to that first chain, to make a chained ring, and that is what we're going to work row 1 into. So there's your ring. It should fit over the edge of your finger. I'm going to work over top of my short tail, but you can leave it out and weave it in later if you're more comfortable with that. We're going to chain 5 to begin row 1. The first 3 chains of that chain 5 counts as a double crochet, and the second 2 chains, or the last 2 chains, counts as a chain 2 space. We're going to double crochet into the ring, and then chain 2. Double crochet, chain 2. You're going to double crochet, chain 2 into this ring 3 more times. At the end of row 1, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spokes. You're going to chain 2, so don't forget your last 2 chains, and then find the third chain of that chain 5 that you began the row with, and you're going to slip stitch to it to join. And that closes up row 1. So you have a nice circle. There's 6 spokes or 6 double crochets showing, and you've got 6 chain 2 spaces. For row 2, we're going to slip stitch into that first chain 2 space, just so we can start in the space, and row 2 begins with a chain 3. The chain 3 counts as a double crochet. You're going to double crochet twice more into that big space. You're going to hop over top of that spoke by chaining 1, and into the next space you're going to double crochet 3 times. So 3 double crochet, chain 1 into each of those chain 2 spaces from the previous row. You have 3 double crochet, chain 1, that chain 1 hops you over top of that spoke. You're working into the big space, 3 double crochet, chain 1 all the way around. Finish row 2, don't forget that last chain to hop over that spoke. You're going to find the top of the chain 3 that began row 2, and you're going to slip stitch to join. So what you've got are 6 chain 1 spaces and 6 sets of 3 double crochet all the way around. So keep the number 6 in your brain, because that is how many motifs we're always going to have as we work around and around our little poinsettia. You can flatten it by laying it down and pulling out the little motifs, or just using the heat of your hand after every row. That helps to keep your work flat. You might find, because we're working in the round, that it wants to turn into a little bowl shape on you. So you can just fight that by stretching it out gently after every row. Row 3. we're going to start right where we are at the top of that chain 3. We're going to chain 3. That's going to count as a double crochet. Into the next stitch, we're going to work 2 double crochet. And we're going to double crochet into the next stitch. So from a set of 3, we're moving to a set of 4 double crochets. To hop over this space, we're going to chain 2. And then we're going to repeat. We're going to double crochet into the first stitch of this set. Into the middle stitch, we're going to work 2 double crochet. And then double crochet once into the last stitch. So across the 3 stitches of the set of 3 from the row previous, you're going to work double crochet, 2 double crochet, double crochet. In order to hop over the little chain 1 spaces, you're actually going to chain 2. So we're making our spaces just a little bit bigger than the previous row. Let's do one more together. We're going to double crochet into the first stitch of the set, 2 double crochet into the middle stitch, and 1 double crochet into the last stitch. So each motif is moved from 3 double crochet to 4. Don't forget to chain 2 in between each set of double crochet stitches, and you're going to repeat that all the way around. After your last motif, remember you should have 4 double crochet now in each one of them, and you'll have 6 of them all the way around with chain 2 spaces in between each one. Don't forget your last 2 chains, and you're going to join with a slip stitch to the top of that chain 3 that began the row. So you've got 6 chain 2 spaces and 6 sets of double crochets that are all 4 each. Remember, you can lay it down, flatten it out with your hands, pull it out a little bit just to help keep it flat, so that you can sort of see how your little project is shaping up. And stretching it out at the end of every row really does help keep it flat. It's like blocking as you go. All right, that's row 3 finished. Let's pop into row 4. We're going to chain 3 to begin, just like the previous few rows. Into each of the next 2 stitches, we're going to double crochet twice. So we're moving from a set of 4 to a set of 6 stitches. So 2 double crochet in each of the middle 2 stitches. And then double crochet once into the next stitch. So remember that chain 3 at the beginning counts as a double crochet. You've got 2 double crochet in each of the middle stitches and a double crochet once on the end. You're going to chain 2, so we're continuing with the chain 2 space, and then you get to the next set of 4 and we work a double crochet into the first stitch, 2 double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, and a double crochet into the last stitch. So once again, you're moving from a set of 4 to a set of 6 double crochets in that little motif. And in between, you're going to continue to chain 2. So we're going to continue with the chain 2 space. You're going to work double crochet, 2 double crochet, 2 double crochet, double crochet, and then chain 2 to hop over the space. And you're going to continue with that all the way around. Once you've finished your last motif, remember you've got 6 double crochets now in each one of those almost petal-like shapes. So double crochet, 2 double crochet, 2 double crochet, double crochet. Chain your last 2 and join with a slip stitch to the top of that chain 3 that began the row. That was row 4, and you can lay it flat, stretch it out, make sure that you can see 6 lines of spaces and 6 more solid things. It's going to look a bit like a wheel. All right, let's turn this into a flower now. We're going to chain 3 to begin, and we're going to crochet, double crochet these 4 middle stitches together. So we're going to start with a yarn over, just like we were going to regularly double crochet. You're going to work the first half of a double crochet stitch in that first double crochet, yarn over, pick up a loop in the next stitch, and work the first half of a double crochet in that stitch, yarn over, pick up a loop in the next stitch, work the first half of a double crochet stitch in that stitch, and once more, yarn over, pick up a loop in that last of those 4 middle stitches, work the first half of a double crochet stitch in there, and you should have 5 loops left on your hook. So here's your chain 3 and your working loop, and there's 4 half built double crochet stitches worked across those 4 middle stitches in the motif. So 5 loops on your hook in total. Yarn over, keep nice sort of strong control over those loops. I find it helps sometimes if I pull away a bit from my hook, and you're just going to pull back through everything. And that's 4 double crochets worked together. You're going to chain 3, and then you're going to slip stitch into that last double crochet in the set. So you've got a little bit of a point happening here. We're going to chain 2. We're going to hop over top to the next double crochet. We're going to slip stitch into the top of it. So you've chained 2, you've hopped over that space, you're going to slip stitch into the top of that first double crochet, chain 3, and now you're going to work a double crochet 4 stitches together across those middle 4 stitches. So yarn over, every single one starts like a regular double crochet. You work the first half of a double crochet. Work the first half of a double crochet stitch, almost like you're forgetting to do the rest of the stitch. And you do that all the way across those 4 middle stitches. By the time you've worked the first half of 4 double crochet stitches, you'll have the first 4 half worked double crochet stitches plus your starting loop, so that's 5 loops in total. Yarn over, pull back through everything, and then chain 3 and slip stitch into the top of that last stitch. I think I'm splitting my yarn here. There we go. That finishes off the little leaf. So you've got 2 leaves now. Chain 2 to hop across the chain 2 space. You slip stitch into the top of that first stitch, chain 3, and the whole thing starts all over again. Chain 3, double crochet 4 stitches together across the middle, and you can get comfortable doing this. This is one of those sort of fun combo stitches. You'll have 5 loops left on your hook, yarn over, pull back through everything, chain 3 to go down the other side, and slip stitch into the top of that last stitch, and that finishes off the petal. Chain 2, and I'll let you do the last 3 on your own. Don't forget to chain your last 2 when you finish the top of your 6th motif that hops across that chain 2 space, and you can just slip stitch to join anywhere in there. You might want to grab the top of the last stitch or in the base of the chain 3. Doesn't really matter, you're just closing off the row here. And that's it for our red yarn. We're going to snip our yarn, fasten off. You can take a moment to weave that tail in or leave it out and weave in later. You can lay it flat and pull out the tops of each one of those petals. And the heat of your hand really does help flatten things out. There we go. So you should have 6 little petals showing here. And now we're going to grab our other color and we're just going to put a pretty little border on it. We're going to take our other color now. I'm using this nice variegated yarn. We're going to start with a slip knot on our hook. And we're going to join with a slip stitch in the top of any one of those 6 petals. So you're going to find that double crochet 4 stitches together and you're going to find the top of it. It'll be the top middle point of that little petal. You're going to join with a slip stitch. And you're going to chain 3. This chain 3 counts as a half double crochet and a chain 1 space. You're going to half double crochet back into the same stitch. So you've got a little half double crochet V-stitch there to start. So that's what we start with. We're going to chain 2. We're going to find that chain 2 space in between petals. So remember that chain 2 that you hopped over the chain 2 space with? You might have to pull it up off of the chain 2 below, but it's there. And we're going to double crochet right into that space. Chain 3 and double crochet. So an extended regular double crochet V-stitch. So half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, chain 3, double crochet, chain 2, and we start all over again. Into the top of the next petal, we're going to work a half double crochet, chain 1, and half double crochet. So half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet, all worked into the top middle stitch of that petal. So it's just a tiny itty bitty little V-stitch. Chain 2. Find the chain 2 that crosses over top of those spaces, and you're going to double crochet, chain 3, it's a nice big wide V, and double crochet back into the same place. Chain 2, and it starts all over again. So it's going to look like that. You're going to half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet in the top of a petal, chain 2, double crochet, chain 3, double crochet in the chain 2 space, chain 2, and then start all over. Half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet in the top of the petal, 2 chains, double crochet, chain 3, double crochet in the little space, 2 chains, and you start all over. I'm going to let you guys work away at that, and I'll catch up with you at the end. At the end of the row, don't forget to chain your last 2, and then you're going to find the second chain from your chain 3, which would be the top of your half double crochet stitch, if that was a half double crochet stitch, and you're going to slip stitch to join so that doesn't interrupt your little half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet mini V-stitch there. You can always flatten it down, pull it out. If it wants to bow up on you, don't worry. It's better to be a little on the tight side with this project because it is going to be wet and it's going to get used as a dishcloth, which means it's going to loosen up over time. So a little tighter is always better when it comes to dishcloths. All right, let's finish it off now with a pretty row of simple double crochets. We're going to slip stitch right into that little chain 1 space. We're going to chain 3 to begin. This chain 3 counts as a double crochet. You're going to double crochet twice more into that space, chain 2, and before we leave, 3 more double crochet. So it's going to get nice and tight in here. But this is going to look pretty familiar to you if you've ever done a granny square. So 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, all worked into that same little chain 2, or chain 1 space I should say. So anytime you're at the top of a petal, it's 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. We're going to work across the side now. We're going to work 3 double crochet, no chains in between. So just 3 double crochet into that first space. So 3 double crochet into that first space. We're going to work 3 half double crochet into the middle of that big V-stitch. So 3 half double crochet, little short stitches. So 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, 3 double crochet, 3 half double crochet. So anytime you see a big V-stitch, 3 half double crochet go in there. Back to double crochet, 3 double crochet into the next big space. And that brings us up to a little tiny mini V-stitch on top of a petal, and we're going to work 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, all into that little itty bitty space. There you go. 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, and it all sits right on top of that petal. 3 double crochet into the next space. Three half double crochet into the big V-stitch that's in the middle, so the right between your petals, 3 half double crochet in there. Back to double crochet, 3 of them in the next big space. And then that's right back to that little itty bitty V-stitch that sits on top of the petal. 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. You're going to continue that little pattern all the way around, and you'll have little corners worked on top of all of your petals. At the end of that row, you're just going to finish your last 3 double crochets, find the top of the chain 3 that began, join with a slip stitch, and we're almost done, but not quite. So you can take a moment, lay it down. You can pull out those 6 points. You should have one in the top of each one of those little petals. So it should look something like this. Ah, this is so merry. We're going to slip stitch across to the chain 2 space. So you've got 2 stitches in between where you are and that chain 2 space. So just slip stitch, nice and easy, not too tight, right into that chain 2 space, and we're going to make ourselves a little hanger. So we're going to chain 12. You can of course chain fewer or more if you feel you need it. We're going to slip stitch back into that space. There's your little hanger, and if you wanted to make it a little stronger, you could just work a whole bunch of single crochets, 12 to 20, into that space, and then again just slip stitch into that chain 2 space to fasten off. But I like the simple little chain. I don't feel there's anything more needed there. I'm gonna snip my yarn, fasten off, and you're going to take a moment to weave in all of your little tails with your yarn needle. So you can once again pause, pull out all those corners. I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to weave in all of my little tails underneath as many of the similar colored stitches as I can find. If you're using a solid color, of course that won't be a big deal, but I like to get them mostly underneath those double crochets. Nice and thick, those stitches all put together. I'm pretty sure that's the prettiest dishcloth I've made yet this year. Now, if you wanted something a little thicker than a dishcloth, say a pot holder, something you could put a casserole dish on, the easiest way to do that is to make 2 identical Poinsettia hexagon motifs, with or without the little hangers. You don't have to include the hangers right off the bat. And before you finish the second one, don't fasten off, just make sure that you're in the corner space. Put them wrong sides together, and then you're going to chain 1 and single crochet through both sides at the same time. You're making a seam through each set of stitches, all the way across the first short side. When you get to the chain 2 space, work 3 single crochet through it. That turns the corner nicely, and then just continue. Single crochet through each set of stitches all the way across the next side, 3 single crochet in the corner space, and so on. When you get back round to the beginning, you can add the hanger if you want, or if you don't want a hanger on your pot holder, just slip stitch to join and fasten off. And you've got a double thickness pot holder. Very, very pretty, quite festive. But of course, it's a motif. You can use this motif to make anything that you can turn hexagon shaped motifs into. I'm thinking blankets, bags, pillowcases, scarves, hats, sweaters, just about anything. This particular motif is really good for a blanket, given its size. And I used 2 different weighted yarns here that were fairly similar. This is a big, thick size 4 in the border, and a size 5 chunky is the red. I used a 6mm hook, also known as a J, and the whole thing sized up to 9.5 inches from point to point, or 8.5 inches from side to side, again, before blocking. So that's a really nice size motif. And of course, if you're joining them together, like any project where you're joining shapes together, lay the whole thing out on the floor or your work surface first. Make sure you're creating the rows or whatever you need to do if you're following a pattern that uses a specific number. This way, when you lay out the whole project first, you know you haven't missed any, so you're not short one. And then when you go to join them together in rows first, and then join each row to the next row and so on. So that's the easy way to do it, just like you would if you were joining together granny squares. I like to sew my motifs together, but slip stitching is nice too. I prefer a very subtle join when I'm using a motif like a hexagon because it's a little more complicated, so I don't really want the join to be the focus. But sewing uses up very little yarn. Think the whip stitch, that's why I like it, because at the end of a project I'm often short on yarn. But slip stitching is faster and it makes a nice strong join as well. So you join them one little side at a time and into a row, and then row by row by row. So just like you would if it was a square. That's all you need to know to put together some hexagons into any kind of project you want. The rest is up to your fantastic imagination. We hope you enjoyed making this pretty little Poinsettia hexagon motif along with us this week, and we will see you soon here on the Jayda InStitches show. Until then, stay safe, stay crafty, and have an awesome week. Bye guys!
Hi everybody, Mr. InStitches here. Thank you for watching today. Here are some of our other videos you might be interested in. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.